Put me in, coach! They'll never see me coming. Hamburger! Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today let's take a look at the Kaiyodo Amazing Yamaguchi My Hero Academia Izuku Midoriya, or Deku if you're so inclined. It was a couple of years ago that I first saw a My Hero Academia figure at Toy Fair at the McFarlane booth, and I thought, oh, that's interesting looking, but I have no clue what that is. And then a few companies announced figures for My Hero Academia. So I thought maybe it's worth a watch, and I started it, and I was kinda, But then once it got rolling, it really got rolling, and I love that show. But it has been a little bit since I binged it, and you know how that goes. You forget some things. But this makes me want to go back and rewatch the whole series again. Looking at the package, it's what we're used to with Amazing Yamaguchi. You get some graphics, and this is really well integrated color-wise all the way around. Big window, you don't exactly see everything you get, but mostly. On the side, nice pretty promotional shot of Deku. On the back, more of the same, just all kinds of poses and accessories and faces and eyes and onomatopoeias and energy effects. On the other side, some more graphics, same with the top. And then on the bottom, legalese, logos, UPC, your winning lottery numbers, and another picture, and we need a powered down All Might in some form. No company has given us him yet. But anyway, let's get this out of the package. See what's going on here. As usual, they even put graphics on the inside flaps. What is on the other side? There's Midoriya, and then Midoriya Happy. And then we even usually, oh man, I like that. Usually it's a lot of different pictures kind of crammed together or bordering a bigger picture, but this is just straight up Midoriya. On the back, taped up, is usually just a stand, but they've also got the onomatopoeias and the, is that? Oh, that's a softer material. Oh, and there's two stands because, yeah, if I remember right, the onomatopoeias get a stand of their own. Or we can look at the instructions, which is usually the more prudent thing to do. Putting hands on, things in hands, hairpiece, faces, eyes, pointing out the holes to put the effects pieces in. Then yeah, there we go, smash on top of the stand. And messing around with Midoriya for the past, I don't know, it's been a few hours now. I really feel like Kaiyodo's making a conscious effort to make it less Revoltech-y. A lot of people hate the Amazing Yamaguchi line, and I don't blame them, really. I mean, I like it because of the poses you can get, but it is joiny. Or, well, in previous figures, it was joiny, it was gappy, you have to work to get into poses that look natural. Most of the figures have all the articulation you could ever want and get into any poses imaginable within the confines of plastic action figures. But in recent times, and especially with this figure, they've kind of done away with the joints that we're used to seeing and making it more fluid and less gappy. But looking at the sculpt itself, it does a great job of conveying the look from the series. Like most Amazing Yamaguchi figures designed by one artist, he kind of throws his own spin into things every now and then, but for the most part here, it's Deku from My Hero Academia, which is what they advertise, so it better be what we get. But a character like this from an anime series already in that style that Yamaguchi usually designs and sculpts in, it's like peanut butter and chocolate. It's meant to go together, and it works fantastic. The costume itself, again, it's supposed to be slightly plain, but the seam lines are sculpted in. The design work is sculpted in. Even the little buttons in places. Where'd that other one go? Oh, right here on the inside of the knee pad. Yeah, I mean, that's stuff that could have easily been overlooked, but they didn't here. The little gold buttons down at the clunky shoes, which is another design from the show. Pouches coming around the belt, just 4. They don't overdo it. This isn't the 90s. This is new style costuming. And then even the straps coming over the shoulders, they have the little buttons sculpted on. They're not painted like the rest of them, but I'm not sure if they're supposed to be. For the neck piece, on the front, you have all this little metal work that looks great, and it comes back around to the mask that you hardly ever see him use, but it's flowing dynamically back. Now when you're posing, that does kind of get in the way, but we'll get into that here in a second. But I think my favorite thing is the head, and when it comes to this character, everything is emotion. Everything is conveyed in his facial expressions. You can see it in the eyes, in the cheeks, in the hair. Everything just screams Midoriya. The upturn to the nose a bit. But I think my favorite thing here is the hair. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but we've seen this off a couple of times. We've seen it painted solid. We've seen it tried to paint with a little shadow to it. Kaiyodo did such an amazing job with the transition from green to black here. And it's not like it's a super hard paint job to do, but you're looking at it and you think, oh, that's all shadow. Nope. that is black paint under and then green paint on top. Like I said, my favorite part, for no other reason than it's such a neat effect. And then they also did a great job with the eyes too, painting them in and having that white sparkle to them, the reflection of light. It just really, really captures that look. Unfortunately, while most of the paint on the body, which is essentially just black lines and these blue right here, this is where it runs into kind of missing the sculpt. But that's in contrast to the clean line work. Well, there's not even really a lot of paint on the rest of the body. Just the gold punched in places, and then I guess, well, no, that's even sculpted. Maybe the black laces on the red down here. Again, this character was made for this style of action figure. But like I mentioned a minute ago, this swoops out, and when you're trying to mess with it, trying to pose it, you do hit that a lot. It's just a trigger to make his mouth automatically disappear if you hit it, because that is jointed too. What is there? Oh yeah, there's a ball joint up on the back that snaps onto. Which is good because, again, with other versions of Midoriya from other companies, this thing usually kind of gets in the way of the chin and posing. Here, you can side to side, you can bring it down, you can bring it up. It's not a huge amount of movement, but enough to get it out of the way. And if we've learned anything about Amazing Yamaguchi figures, it's that you have to think about the overall piece as you're posing it. And besides the gappiness, that's another thing a lot of people hate. Focusing on the neck, it's kind of the same problem that I had with the Harley Quinn, where you get crazy with it and you're going to gap up. Well, it's just a ball joint coming. Well, it's a dumbbell joint, actually. You're never going to pose it like that, fully extended, unless you're taking a picture from this angle right here. But it is nice to have that much range. Oh my God, look at that tilt. But it's nice to have that much range of movement for certain pictures. If you're wanting just a neutral pose, which this line isn't usually made for, you can shove that down and extend it down, and it looks great from all angles. Deku does seem to be easier to get into just a standing pose. Like I said, a lot of figures look all like the legs sticking out and the knees around, and you can't hardly get into this. This line was made for action. But like I said, they're evolving a bit. They are getting better with this. Better in the sense of making it easy for those of us who just want to put a pose and throw it on the shelf. Because looking at articulation, like I said, there's a dumbbell joint at the neck that gives you just all kinds of crazy movement. And then there also seems to be either a ball or a dumbbell down at the bottom of the neck too. Look up, look down, the tilt is amazing. And then of course that swivels on top. The shoulder has kind of a swivel where that strap is coming over, so it butterflies, or well, it's a visible butterfly, if that makes sense. And then inside of that is a ball joint coming out to a ball joint in the bicep or shoulder. Yeah, kind of a dumbbell joint. So with that, you can shift it down, shift it up. If you want to come out, it goes to there. It's a weird assembly, but it works. Swivels up and all the way around. No bicep swivel, which would have been perfectly hidden by this sleeve, but they opted to put it up there in the arm, so you do get rotation. You just have to work around the shoulder a bit. One of the few Revoltech joints that are visible here and at the knee, but with that, it doesn't come all the way up, but it comes past 90 enough. Swivel hinge swivel at the wrist, so you can get here and then swivel. You can get it going up and down or any direction. This is sandwiched into that joint and it rotates around. It does get in the way sometimes, but it's easy enough to just whoosh, get it out of the way. There seems to be a ball or a dumbbell, but there's also a hinge in there that gives you a little extension somewhere. It's magical because you get that much range you can kind of see in there. Maybe it's a big old ball joint. But from neutral position, you can crunch all the way, arc all the way back. Just look at that. I mean, you're not going to get better than that. The hip, instead of giving us some crazy joint, is simply just a ball joint coming down. So you can come up with that and back and out to about right there, but there's also a swivel kind of integrated into that whole assembly, where if you get to here, you can kind of rotate and get it on up to 90. Then when you come down, you have to kind of work it down to neutral. Again, I kind of expected a joint right here at the top of the leg armor, but it's all the way up there at the top, but it swivels as far as you want to go. Knee comes up to, well, not quite, oh, bing! That's more of a pouch kick than an ass kick, but it's close. And then down at the ankle, this red part is a cover for the articulation, but you can hinge back, you can hinge forward, rock back and forth, and then there's a toe joint that goes to there. For accessories, and there are a lot of them, Deku comes with 2 fists, comes with 2 splayed out hands. He has 2 flipping hands, and if you've seen the show, you know what this is. It's always awesome to see him breaking his fingers as he's using the one for all. And then he comes with a book holding hand and a pen holding hand. It's a tight peg, and sometimes, well, it didn't do it that time, but sometimes this joint comes out along with this bracelet piece, and then you have to kind of work it, pull it out of here. Most of the time now, I just hold on to that bracer piece, and hope for the best because it's on this side. But then once you have that off, it's easy enough just to plug the other hand on. Not a big deal. Also comes with 3 facial expressions. In the box on the figure, it comes with this stoic look, but there's also this angry look. He's trying to get the power going. He's exerting himself. But then there's also this one, his happy look, his surprised, something going on here. And with that, the front of the hair comes off, and they do a good job of integrating that. Most of the time, the face just kind of falls off, but it is pegged on right there. And it probably loosened itself whenever I was going crazy with the articulation a minute ago, because when you peg it on, it's not just falling off. But then you just plug the other face on, plug the hair back in. That works great. And to give you even more options here, there are different sets of eyes. And they come in pairs this time. They're not movable eyes behind the face or integrated into the face, which I hate. This, I'm okay with this, because you pop the eyes out, and there's this tool to help you if you do have trouble with it. But with this, you're always going to be looking in the same direction. You're not fighting this eye to look where this eye is going, and that may be my biggest pet peeve with moving eyes. This, you just plug it in and go. On the back of the eyes, you will notice that there are A's on these two and B's on these. That's because the angry eyes have a different shape than the other 2 faces. And on the rounder eyes, on the stoic face and the happy face, there's an A sculpted on the back of that. But like I said, different options, not a bad thing. And you can have them looking wherever you want, taking pictures. Yeah, even though most of the time mine are probably going to be looking forward. And I always love these trays with the lid on them. That way you can keep them all together. You're not going to lose the, well, you can lose this, but you're not just going to have these loose on a shelf or in a bag or somewhere. Carpet monster. But you'll also notice the pin right there too. That goes along with the notebook when he's taking notes and figuring out how powers work and who has what and weaknesses and strengths. And just very nice detail to that, both on the inside and on the outside. And it took me a minute, but I figured out that you have to get the book holding hand up over the top and kind of shove it against his elbow, and it locks in there. And then, of course, the pin holding hand, you got to shove the pin in there, but at some point you have to think, why didn't they just sculpt this together? Because you're not going to use this hand with anything else. And kind of the same with the book. But at the same time, you can just leave this laying somewhere or down at his feet, and there you go. For the onomatopoeias, and then this balloon where he's doing his deep thought when he's mumbling to himself and ignoring the world around him. These are a thinner, clear acrylic, I guess. Do bend around, so I'd be careful of creasing them. But I also noticed that there is a clear protective film on one side of them. So before you actually use them, peel that off and it becomes just a little bit clearer. With those, we get a Figma stand, and then there is an adapter piece that has a tiny little clip. Well, it's not even a clip. It's just a slot that you can stick those down into. It's more of a, it pinches it as you push down. And I love that they gave us 2 stands because of that. That's not something all companies will do. There's also a clip so you can clamp around the figure, but I don't care too much for these. You can leave that blank, and then Deku has a peg on his back that fits into, and that works. Then he has these power effects. There are 8 that are essentially the same, but there's a left and a right, and then there's 2 smaller green ones and 2 smaller red ones, or pinkish, or whatever color that is. And with those, I've messed around with them, but I don't know. I kind of feel like they're more trouble than they're worth. They do plug in, and you can kind of move them around. As time goes on, I may like them more. As I pose around, I mess with them and whatnot, but right now, I don't know. They're okay. Also, some of them don't really like to plug in. I don't know. Again, I'll just have to mess with it, because you can get some nifty poses or looks to it. But then to go along with that, there is an alternate hairpiece with some electricity flowing through it. On the main hairpiece, you can see it coming down in front of the head right there. But here, I don't know. It seems like it rides above his face. And I realize it's supposed to be kind of blowing up along with the power, just the force coming out. I don't like this look as much. I don't know. It just seems more integrated overall. The hair, the face, the look, everything. See, not bad neutral pose. Midoriya stands at about 5.5 inches to the top of his hair. Here he is with the McFarlane Toys version and then the Figma. I'm almost okay with the size of these two. This is a younger Midoriya, and he grows a little bit, he trains, he gets muscled up. But the McFarlane Midoriya is definitely 7-inch scale. But it is kind of cool how Figma gave us the alpha suit and then McFarlane gave us the beta suit while Amazing Yamaguchi is giving us the Gamma suit. Again, too small for the McFarlane figures, and I did replace her head with the Banpresto statue head. But you can kind of fudge it in with the bigger characters, even though Amazing Yamaguchi is coming out with an All Might. And then to give you a general sense of scale, here is the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Stormtrooper and the Marvel Legends comic book Black Panther. So at the end of the day, it's more the same from Amazing Yamaguchi, but it's improved. Now there's a lot going on here too. I love the My Hero Academia series, and Midoriya, even though it took a minute for him to grow on me, after I hit that point I was like, holy shit, get him Deku, get him! But then there's also the fact that some people don't like Revoltech or Amazing Yamaguchi or Kaiyodo, and that's okay too. But if you have been skipping the series, but now suddenly with the My Hero Academia figures, you're like, oh, maybe I do want to jump in. Give it a shot, because it almost feels like all the figures before this is just them testing things out. We've seen a gradual evolution through the line. With Deadpools and Spideys, it was just very clunky, and you can get poses and it looks amazing once you hit those poses, but to get there it's almost like a huge booklet of, oh well, I have to put the arm here and then move and then shove and then shift and then come around and shift out there, and why did that fall off, and plug it back in, and meh. It's almost as if the Amazing Yamaguchi line is moving away from Revoltech joints in general. We still see a couple here, but the integration of actual ball joints and more solid articulation that doesn't fly all over the place while still giving a nice range of movement, yeah, that's a good thing to see. So that's a lot of factors. If you're not a fan of the series or this line, you probably, why are you here? What are you doing? And it may be the, ooh, new shiny toy talking, but this may be the best Midoriya that I have so far. I like the McFarlane after I replaced the head because it was just the likeness off. And the Figma's pretty good, but restricted in places. Here, you have the articulation, you have the look, you have the sculpt. It's just the whole 9 yards. And given the history of the Yamaguchi line, I don't think that they're going to go too deep with the series. But if I can get, well, now that I have an excellent Midoriya, and I'm getting what looks to be an excellent All Might, that's a good pair. I can work with that. So bring on the All Might. I'm ready. If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Go beyond! Damn, I love that torso movement.